And there we go. We should be live. Isaiah, talk for me.
Check, check. Mic check. Hello,
Perfect.
hello. Hi,
Perfect.
world.
Got to switch over. We're operating in our new podcast studio, so that we've got to make sure everything's properly working. But the good news is, it looks like it all is. Hey guys, how's everybody doing this evening? I brought a new friend.
Hi there.
This is Steven.
I don't sound like how I normally do. My voice is going.
Yeah, we've recorded 5 episodes of History
Hello,
Unhinged
friend
this week.
Steven. How are you?
Oh
right.
boy, Isaiah's definitely got a lag. That's probably our fault.
Very nice.
Oh no.
I have a lag.
To describe it as severe would be a severe
I
understatement.
swear I didn't do it. It's not me.
I know, it's not on you at all. It's totally on us. Oh boy, what now?
Honestly, I don't know. This live?
It is live currently.
It's live in front of a
Yeah.
bunch of people. Oh god.
Yeah,
that's
this
great.
is hilarious.
Especially with how fast we talk. That's going to be a bit of an.
It was going so well. It was going so well.
Is this connected via Ethernet or is it just Wi-Fi?
It's Wi-Fi because the cable that we thought was a lot longer is nowhere near as long as we thought it
What
was.
did you get? A 25-foot cable?
No, we thought that guy over there stretched out further.
Oh.
And we ran the Ethernet test earlier today, and it worked fine. You should see Isaiah over on this end. It's hilarious.
Oh, I know. It looks like he's jumping around the screen.
He is just jumping around the screen. Oh, boy. How do we handle this?
Honestly, from that, the best bet is to probably, if we can get some kind of Ethernet, to just run it real quick to try and stabilize the connection.
We can try. I just don't know if we have a cable long enough. Everything was working fine up until right now.
We should have run a test here for like Zoom or something before it is actually going live.
For the man in the mirror.
Is there an Ethernet cord here? Is there something that is here?
Well, the alternative is that I could have Aiden come back really quick, and we could really quickly set up downstairs.
We might need to do that.
We might need to do that. Damn.
If you want to make the world a better
But that's the thing, is like everything was working fine up until the call started.
Change.
Oh boy. All right, how are we gonna handle this?
I think that rather than just foot around and then just not do anything properly, we should just go ahead and cut it right now and go.
I think that's a good plan. All right, Isaiah, can you give us like 6 minutes to move some stuff downstairs? All right.
Aye, Captain.
Okay, it's so frustrating. It's like a 3-second delay, but it's gonna be nuts if we keep trying to do
Oh,
that.
that would be awful for any responses. It would.
All right. Okay,
It's
everybody.
even funnier.
Transition, and everybody can see us, but they can't see you, and now they should be able to see you. Hey guys, how you doing?
All right.
Hello.
All right, as you can see to my left, that's not Thornbury, that's Steven.
Aye.
Stephen Bell of History of Everything, Stakuyi, and now History Unhinged, the new program from the Lore Lodge and Stephen Bell.
Also, from the very beginning here, if I sound off for anyone who's familiar with me, I currently have a whole bunch of drainage that has been flowing down into my lungs, so I have a feeling that within the next day or two, I'm going to develop bronchitis. So, mind you, I'm powering through this. If I sound off or anything, please forgive me.
Yeah, love that we're starting off the show with talk of drainage. That is my favorite thing in the world. Isaiah, you are probably the more familiar with the Book of Elijah than either of us, and I say that because the Book of Elijah is not a thing. And I had myself convinced that there was, in fact, a Book of Elijah for about a week and a half, and was driving myself nuts before I finally decided to Google it and was like, oh, I just misremembered things. And he's not one of the prophets that gets his own book. He gets 4 chapters of the Book of First Kings. That's his primary story. And that, I gotta admit, that was a humbling moment for me. When I was like, you know what? I have an entire minor in this. I spent 4 years in college studying this, and I forgot that this wasn't a book. I had a thumbnail ready to go before I realized this wasn't a book. That's how things have been going for me.
You know, it's less of a book and more of a novella, if anything. The novella of the Bible, clearly. Very clearly.
The novella of the Bible. The Bible, the very short work of text that is the Bible.
Yes. I mean, look, when you're talking about 4 chapters of something, then yeah, that's probably the novella of it, if anything.
But so I think you're probably going to be the one who has more to say on the spirituality and the religious aspects of it. But as tends to happen with the show, we gotta set the scene for what's going on in 1 Kings 17 through 21 when Elijah is prophet and kind of the understanding of why he matters. Because the chief story here is that Elijah is fighting against the worship of non-Hebrew deities. So we've got primarily Baal is the one who's brought up. And the reason this is an issue is because we're about 150 years after David's ascension to the kingship. David becomes king after Saul. We have a whole episode on that. And Saul has created a united kingdom of Israel and Judah. So he's united all 12 tribes under one leader. And then his successor, David, well, technically his successor is his son, Eshbal, who lasts 2 years before he is unceremoniously executed by his own generals, or perhaps by David. The scholars are split on that one, but the book says it wasn't David. David rules. He has his nice long reign, and then Solomon rules, and Solomon gets a little freaky with it.
A little freaky with it.
Solomon builds his temples. Solomon kind of allows people to worship other deities to a certain extent. He's a very wise king, but he's also a little uncouth when it comes to the whole monotheism thing. And after Solomon, the kingdom of Israel splits in two. It becomes the kingdoms of Israel and Judah. For the first time, these exist as separate kingdoms. And there's a guy named Ahab. And Ahab does not properly follow the good book. Ahab, in fact, deliberately goes out of his way to not follow the good book on multiple occasions. And the result is a drought. And so we're in the mid 9th century, the 800s, kind of the early 800s, really. And a man named Elijah is sitting by a river. And Isaiah, would you like to tell us more?
Yes, I would love to tell you more. Absolutely. So are we just starting in 1 Kings 17?
I think that's the best place to start, because it's not like the Bible actually tells us anything about Elijah before that.
It just, like, unceremoniously drops us in.
Oh, literally, it's like, and Elijah the Tishbite. That's it.
Yeah, it's all it says, Elijah the Tishbite. Just the start off of it.
Yeah. Do you want to take it from there?
I was pretending like there was a really long delay and going to see how long it took.
I was really hoping that it wasn't. I was trying to power through it.
There was a little twitch. I'm sure it's going to be recorded right
yeah,
here. There was a little twitch right here in this corner.
Where I'm like, we didn't just move all the way down here for the same delay. Yeah, we get Isaiah in high definition, but still a 4-second delay.
Yeah, that's the same thing I told my wife at the altar. So
there was a 4-second delay.
I said, you're gonna get the full picture, but it's gonna be delayed.
Okay.
It's just how it's gonna have to be. All right, so 1 Kings, as mentioned, this is in the time after the judges. This is in the age of the prophets, when the prophets are coming forward. This is before the establishment of kings and stuff like that, as would later happen, because the last prophet was Samuel. Samuel was the first of the reign of kings, blah, blah, blah. At the time, as mentioned, Ahab was a very wicked ruler, him and his wife, or Queen Jezebel. And the two of them were up to a lot of problems. So often, similar to how God did anytime a judge was brought forward, a prophet would come forward in order to deliver the message or to do what, to be God's handyman on earth. So 1 Kings chapter 17 opens, just says, and Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, as the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, but according to my word. So it does come out of nowhere. Elijah does appear very suddenly, but what you have to keep in mind is that there were a lot of prophets around this time. As a matter of fact, it talks constantly about Jezebel killing like hundreds at a time. So we know a lot of the major prophets like Isaiah and Elijah and people that are mentioned along the Old Testament, but there are several prophets that happen off screen. Like, for example, when David is called out for his sins, it says that a prophet named Nathan walks in, calls him out, and then we never see Nathan again. So there are like prophets happening in the background in a lot of these stories. So we can assume that Elijah was a prophet before this moment happened. And now he's just the one chosen by God to go before the king and said that there will be a drought. It continues, says, and the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, get thee hence and turn thee eastward and hide thyself by the brook Cherith that is before Jordan. And it shall be that thou shalt drink of the brook, and I have commanded the ravens to feed thee there. So he went and did according unto the word of the Lord, for he went and dwelt by the brook Cherith that is before Jordan. And the ravens brought him bread and flesh in the morning, and bread and flesh in the evening, and he drank of the brook. So there's now a drought across the land. God says that he will provide for him. So Elijah goes to the brook, and God provides for him with the ravens. They bring him meat and they bring him bread. So through a miracle, Elijah has continued to be fed, even though the land is going through a time of desolation. So we continue on after that. God sends him on a few messages. He sends them to an area known as Zarephath. How in depth do you want to go with each individual story? Aiden, what's your...
Honestly, I think personally, I think the widow's son one is very interesting, but I think the big one is going to be the moment with the altar. So,
okay, yeah, we can hit those two for sure. Then
I think those are the big ones.
So right here, after he leaves from the brook, the Bible says, and it came to pass after a while that the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. So now God sends him on to something else. God says, arise, this is verse 9, arise, get thee to Zarephath, which belongeth to Zidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow woman there to sustain thee. So he arose and went to Zarephath, and he came to the gate of the city. Behold, the widow woman was there gathering of sticks, and he called to her and said, fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel that I may drink. And as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thine hand. She said, as the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die. So for one, this kind of paints a picture of how decimated the land is around this time, because there's a woman who is scavenging for sticks so that she can have a little bit of fire to make bread. Then she says, yes, I'm going to eat this with my son, and then we're going to die.
Literally has
literally just at the end. Like, yeah, no, hey, everything around here sucks. Goodbye. This is it. It's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, we are going to eat this last bread we have, and then we're going to starve. And we've looked everywhere, and there's no other food, so that's it. We're going to starve to death. So pretty rough times. And now Elijah, the prophet, has come there, and Elijah's asked her for food. And that's when she tells him this. And in verse 13, it says, and Elijah said unto her, fear not, go and do as thou hast said, but make me therefore a little cake first. Bring it unto me, and after make for thee and for thy son. For thus saith the Lord God of Israel, the barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail till the day that the Lord sendeth rain upon the earth. So we now have Elijah that's going to this woman and saying, I know that that's all the food you have left for you and your son, but in the name of God, I want you to bring me part of bread. And God says that you will have food to eat until the rain falls again. So it's like, yes, she's in a desperate situation, but her faith outweighs it, because spoilers, we're going to see in a moment, she does make him the bread. So that is for this woman, a test of her faith to say, do you believe that caring for a prophet, following after a prophet, will be enough to sustain you? Do you believe that God will take care of you if you take care of God? So it says in verse 15, and she went and did according of the saying of Elijah, and she and he and her house did eat many days. And the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by Elijah. So a miracle was performed similar to the feeding of the 5,000 in Jesus's time. Regardless of how much food they needed, the barrel was always a little bit more full. There was always a little bit more oil, and they were able to be sustained.
We also see this in Maccabees with what becomes the celebration of Hanukkah. This is a recurring miracle, especially with things like food and oil, that you have. God says, don't worry, I've got this taken care of, and all you need to do is trust me, which is kind of the foundational conflict of the Old Testament. Is, yes, there's all these intertribal and international conflicts, but over and over again we see that God is like, hey guys, I got this, trust me. And most of the conflicts come when people go, but what if I don't do that?
Yeah, what if I don't trust you? What if I hit this rock really hard twice?
Yeah.
Instead of what you told me to do. Yeah. It normally comes with people freaking out or letting themselves get in the way. And there's a lot of times that people block themselves out of greater rewards. I mean, think about it. God told Moses that if Moses followed as he would come to live in the promised land. And Moses didn't do that. So he got to see the promised land, but he never got to live in it.
Really cruel.
Oh no, that was an element.
That was what?
I said that was an element. That was something that when you look at it, that is one of the original stories for describing for what happened. That is, it's one of those moments where it's like, well, man, after all these years and that one mistake, and that is the thing that dooms you.
All because a few people were scared of some Nephilim.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, really, it just.
Yeah, but why be afraid of them? They're really cool. You should trust them.
Also, that book, that specific instance in, I think that's Numbers, where you have Moses is basically told, hey, here's what you need to do. And then Moses goes to everybody else and tells them, hey, here's what you need to do. They go in, they report, oh my God, there's giants. We were like grasshoppers in their sight. How horrifying, how horrible. And everybody gets scared. Nobody trusts God. They don't want to go into the promised land because they think they're going to get eaten. And then a really interesting thing happens. And this plays into the idea of the age of innocence, the age of accountability, because what happens in that moment is that God says, all right, well, all of you who didn't trust in me and refused to go on this journey, refused to believe that this land was set aside for you, you will not enter into the promised land. And then he sets a limit on that, and that is the age of 20. So everyone under the age of 20 is not held accountable for that failure. Which is where this idea that, there is a certain point at which you are accountable not only for your own morality, but for your own salvation comes into play.
Yeah, the age of accountability and whatnot, which is debated a lot as to what it actually is. Yeah. And
it seems like it changes. I mean, by the time of the Second Temple, you've got 13 appears to be the age of manhood and womanhood. So it seems like it almost seems like it goes down over time.
There's also cases of like people under the age of 20 making some very severe decisions throughout the Bible, like Gideon was 14, I think, or something like that. And I would say he was certainly at the age of accountability. So it's like, it's debated. I try not to put too much stock into Old Testament, like typology and stuff like that, to be like, oh, well, this happened with Moses, so it must mean later. Because that's a very tricky game to play. Sometimes it can be useful, but it's I don't know, I'm just cautious with it. 20 seems pretty old. I've known a lot of 17-year-olds who know exactly what they're doing.
Well, to be fair, but there's also a key reason. It's like when you see someone who's a college student or something else, and you think they have the whole world figured out at the age of 19, and then they very quickly realize by the age of 24, oh shit, no, I had no idea what the hell I was doing.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah. But when it comes to accountability of sin and like free will and stuff like that, I'd say it's probably, I personally, I think the age of accountability is different for every person. So whenever they recognize, what free will is, what sin is and stuff like that.
I think that's the way to look at it. It doesn't make sense for there to be a one size fits all kind of definition on that one.
Yeah. Cause then you get real technical. Then it's like, well, technically, he's 6 years, 364 days old, but he was born on leap year. So technically, is he? So
secretly, I'm 5.
Yeah, exactly. Secretly a child.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, well, I can't be accountable now. Checkmate, God. So
checkmate, God.
Yeah. I win.
Saying that has never worked out for any story in the book.
No, and this is one of the books or one of the chapters where it most certainly does not work out for Ahab.
Yes, correct. So after that, the woman is rewarded for her faithfulness, and then immediately afterwards, she's awarded in another big way. Because in verse 17, it says, and it came to pass after these things that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, fell sick. And his sickness was so sore that there was no breath left in him, which is an elaborate way to say he died.
Her son dies.
Her son dies. Yeah. So after that, after they're provided for, her son dies. And she said unto Elijah, what have I to do with thee, O thou man of God? art thou come unto me to call my sin to remembrance and to slay my son? Which is rough.
You can understand why she's upset.
Well, yeah, her son's dead.
Oh yeah, just a class. It's a
boy.
boy.
Historically proven manner of being upset. Your son died.
I don't believe it.
Reasonable reaction given the circumstances.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree. So her son's dead, and she says, "Is that all you're here to do, to call my sin to remembrance and to slay my son?" Verse 19, it says, and he said unto her, "Give me thy son." And he took him out of her bosom and carried him up into a loft, where he abode and laid him upon his own bed. And he cried unto the Lord and said, O Lord my God, hast thou also brought evil upon the widow with whom I sojourn, by slaying her son? And he stretched himself upon the child 3 times, and cried unto the Lord and said, O Lord my God, I pray thee, let this child's soul come into him again. The Lord heard the voice of Elijah, and the soul of the child came into him again, and he revived. Elijah took the child and brought him down out of the chamber into the house and delivered him unto his mother. And Elijah said, See, thy son liveth. And the woman said to Elijah, Now by this I know that thou art a man of God, and that the word of the Lord in thy mouth is truth. So she was rewarded for one step of faithfulness, and then when the second time came, she was rewarded once again for her faithfulness. A lesson that often is goes the other way in the Old Testament with a lot of characters. But here we see that her faithfulness paid off and that her son lived again.
It also seems as though her doubt was not necessarily in God, but in Elijah specifically.
Yeah, she was like, well, thy man of God, are thou here to call my sins to remembrance and kill my son? So yeah, I mean, it's like, it's understandable, right? It's a mother who lost a kid. The Bible, it's not a sin to have emotions. It's not a sin to be human. It's a sin to fester in it, to let that be. If she would have let that got in the place of her belief in God or belief in Elijah, but she didn't, because Elijah said, thy faith is what did this. It wouldn't be wrong of her to act according to human nature. It would be wrong of her to follow that nature, to follow that desire.
She's not in any way punished for having that reaction.
Yes, correct. Exactly. And there's other times that it's interesting too, because there's other times in the Bible where people certainly are punished for a reaction, right? And a lot of the time I notice that is when it comes out of leaders, or when it comes out of people that know better. Like Sarah, when she laughs at, well, even then she wasn't really punished. She was just ridiculed for it. When Sarah laughs at God for saying she'll be pregnant in her age, or as we mentioned a second ago, Moses striking the rock, right? That certainly came from emotion. But those were from the matriarchs and patriarchs of the Bible. Those are the people who had, birthed nations and were set to lead the children of God. They are held to a higher standard than just this woman who was faithful and lost her child. I think that almost says that there are points where it is okay to be emotional. It's okay to have reactions, but there's times that it isn't. There's times where you have to be better. You have to put that to the side. Right. But that's just like, personal teachings you can glean from the Old Testament. What we see literally is that her faith in God is rewarded, for sure. And then the other one you want to go. So after that, Elijah continues on. He goes, and eventually God says that he needs to show himself unto Ahab, and when he does, God will send rain upon the earth. If you remember, it's been a
3-year drought.
Yeah, it's been a 3-year drought at that point. So since Elijah said rain's not going to come, it's been 3 years and the rain still hasn't fallen. So eventually, the Bible also says that there was a famine at this time, because if there's no water, that would probably contribute to a famine.
No, what?
Turns out plants need that stuff.
No, they just need Gatorade. It's got electrolytes.
I don't think that the ancient Israelites had a large supply of Gatorade, Stephen.
Are you sure?
Well, the book doesn't say so. Now you're arguing from the Catholic position, and I don't appreciate that.
Are you sure? Because maybe Israel didn't have it.
The Bible doesn't say they didn't have Gatorade.
Maybe Israel didn't have it, but Judah could have.
The Bible doesn't say Mary just was assumed into heaven, but it's okay.
No, I'll let you get beat up by the Catholics this time. You go right ahead with that one. They take that assumption thing serious.
They really do.
It's one of the 5, I forget what the name of it is, the 5 things that Catholics have to believe.
Yeah, which is
Assumption of
wild
Mary.
because it was not a belief until like the 6th century. At
Oh,
all.
there you go again.
Yeah.
There you go again.
I know.
Okay.
So, but I mean, Elijah was assumed, so we're all good.
He was, wasn't he?
Yeah, eventually.
He was, yeah. Yeah,
It was
yeah.
topical. It was
Yeah,
topical.
I guess you're right. with that one.
All right. See, it's all good.
But doesn't assumption exclusively apply to bodies?
I think so.
Okay, so then he wouldn't have been assumed.
Wasn't he?
Well,
you
he
mean
wasn't
dead bodies?
Yeah, unless
I
he
don't know.
instantly vaporized as he was going up on the chariot, which I don't think is what the
Probably
story's trying to
not.
get across.
There was an interesting
Probably
one
not.
towards the end. You know, we'll bring this up after the Ahab story, but the idea that Elijah may be one of the witnesses, because the book says that every man must die once.
Yeah, so him and Enoch have to be sent back down to be publicly executed.
Yeah, which
Before they can go back.
is kind of a wild
I mean,
situation.
that's just funny to imagine that, like, on technicality, like Elijah and Enoch are in heaven, and like every 20 years, God taps his watch, and he's like, "Any day now."
Yeah, do you think that was something they
Yeah.
were informed of at the time?
Yeah, they get up there, they're like, "Wow, this place is cool," and it's like you still aren't getting out of it. You got to go
You
back.
didn't escape. You just got paroled.
Yeah,
Like, it's coming.
maybe the vaporized thing on the chariot did happen. Maybe this is sacrilege. Maybe Elijah's like, "Wow, God, we're going to hell."
Hey, nothing says ascension like vaporization.
Yeah,
After
That's
all,
true.
remember, heat rises.
heat does rise. All right.
That's
Oh,
funny
boy.
too, but I'm being slightly sacrilegious now.
We're all
I understand factually that Elijah was carried up to heaven on a chariot, and the Bible says he was translated, so he did not see death, or at least he says that about Enoch, and we can assume that's the same thing.
Look, we're all gonna have
but-
some things
but
to
that
explain
being
to St.
said-
Peter.
That being said, it is funny
It's
to
fun.
imagine that Elijah and Elisha were on the bank of the Jordan, and then they looked up and a giant fireball.
Yep. Elisha actually sees Elijah get completely destroyed, and he goes
But he's-
back and he's like, "There was a chariot of fire."
Yeah, guys, there were like horses. They were really big. And there were horses.
The man just witnessed a meteor crush somebody.
It's just like gaping, like looking
If
at
it
us.
was North America, I would have said a geyser.
Oh yeah, Elijah was just standing on a geyser. That's
The Mormon variant of the book
Yeah.
of Elijah is literally just like
the Mormon
a
version.
geyser out in the Midwest.
Wait, did the Mormons have something to do with a geyser, or are you just saying set
No,
in the
but
US?
the Mormons were out west, and there's geysers
see,
out
okay,
there. Yeah.
okay,
I mean,
I see your
you know, there was the whole thing with the golden tablets nobody else was allowed to read. I'm sure that was legit.
Maybe the geyser did it. Who knows?
Maybe it was the geyser. But
Maybe
yeah,
it's the
so
geyser. In northern
Elijah,
Massachusetts.
yeah, exactly. Elijah goes to Ahab, and he's like, "Hey, man, call all your prophets, because I'm about to lay you some knowledge." Right? That's how we would put it.
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep. So Elijah he also does this with Obadiah, another prophet. So Obadiah goes to summon Ahab, and then Ahab has his meeting with Elijah, as God told him to. And Elijah says, wait, let me make sure. And he answered, "I am, go tell the Lord." Yes. And he said, "What have I sinned, that thou wouldest deliver thy servant into the hand of Ahab to slay me?" This is 1 Kings 18:9, by the way. "As the Lord thy God liveth, there is no nation or kingdom whither my Lord hath not sent to seek thee. And when they said, He is not there, he took an oath of the kingdom and nation." This is him calling out Ahab. I'll skip ahead to the relevant part. I mean, this is all relevant, of course, but for the sake of the narrative, Jezebel says,
They were looking. The key here is that they were looking for Elijah.
Yes.
Like he was an outlaw. Like he wasn't just living out on this river because of vibes.
They
were
kill him,
actively trying to kill him. And I believe Ahab is he's the grandson of Jeroboam, who is the first king of the Israelite kingdom after they separate from Judah, because they really, really wanted to worship multiple gods. They were really big on that.
Interesting.
They needed more gods.
This is interesting. It says, and it came to pass when Ahab saw Elijah, Ahab said unto him, art thou he that troubleth Israel? So Ahab sees Elijah as like an enemy of the people, right? Because Ahab's king. And
he's pretty convinced Elijah is the one causing the problems.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you're the one causing problems around here, said the king of multiple gods to the prophet. And Elijah responds and says, I have not troubled Israel, but thou and thy father's house, in that ye have forsaken the commandments of the Lord, and thou hast followed Balaam. Now therefore send and gather to me all Israel into Mount Carmel, and the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the groves 400, which eat at Jezebel's table. So effectively, Elijah's calling him to task. He's saying, bring all of your prophets to Mount Carmel, and I'll bring all of mine. Keep in mind at this time, like the prophets of God were being slaughtered left and right by Ahab and his men.
Yeah, just massive genocide happening.
He also, Elijah has a call out to the people. He stands before them and says, how long halt ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him, but if Baal, then follow him. The people answered him not a word. Because at the time, it's this weird thing where, like, maybe the people know who God is, even if they've pushed the information away. So they still want to follow after God, but the king and the law says to worship after Baal or Balaam and the other lesser gods. They don't want to go against the law, so everyone's in this kind of limbo. So Elijah goes before them and says, if the Lord be God, follow him, but if Baal, then follow him. And says they didn't say anything. So then Elijah says to them, I, even I only, remain a prophet of the Lord. But Baal's prophets are 450 men, which that is humbling.
And they also just kind of like, he doesn't even recognize the prophets of Asherah. He's just ignoring the 400 of them. He's just like, you're go away.
Who cares? Yeah, whatever. This is a teaching moment. This is to tell the people. That's why he's so upset. He's like, the people, you like Baal, that golden calf over there is 450 prophets, and I'm the only one that's actually a prophet of God. And he says, let them there before give us 2 bullocks and let them choose. Okay, this is where he's describing the layout of the actual trial. And they took the bullock, which was given. Okay, so basically he says, let them pick 2 different bulls, and we will each take one. And then let them choose one for themselves and cut it in pieces and lay it on wood and put no fire under. And I will dress the other and lay it on the wood and put no fire under. So we're each going to set up an animal sacrifice, because at the time in the Old Testament, animal sacrifices was way to sins laid on the animal, the blood covenant, blah, blah, blah. Elijah says, we'll each do that, and we'll each call out to our gods without setting the sacrifice on fire. And whichever one becomes on fire, that one is the real God. So effectively, he's putting a task between Baal and Jehovah. So they go to Mount Carmel. All this happens, and the prophets of Baal are gathered together, and they do the whole dressing of the bull,
whole song and dance.
They do the whole song literally. Because it says in 1 Kings 18:26, and they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they leaped upon the altar which was made. So, like, they've been doing it all day. They've been doing it for like 6 hours. And they're leaping and they're shouting. And then they're like, maybe
starts making fun of them.
He does start making fun of them. But the prophets of Baal are so dedicated, they're leaping on the altar. So that's saying they're like, well, maybe Baal, their God, wants a human sacrifice. So they begin to cast themselves on the altar. That's how committed they were to this false God. Keep in mind, they have 450. The only one who showed up for God, for Jehovah, was Elijah. So it is Elijah versus 450 of them, and they're throwing themselves on the altar. They are willing to give themselves up to the false God. And then, as you mentioned, Elijah makes fun of them. Because in verse 27 it says, and it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth and must be awakened.
He's like, yeah, maybe he's just taking a nap.
Be louder. Be louder. Come on.
You know, maybe he went for a walk, guys.
Oh, well, he's God, so he could be talking to someone.
Maybe he's busy.
He could be chasing after someone. Maybe, he could be sleeping. You should yell louder.
You have a sleepy, eepy, weepy god, don't you?
I mean, it's been 6 hours of them yelling and like throwing themselves on the altar and stuff. And Elijah's like, I don't.
Okay, we're back.
Yeah, apparently, Ball did not appreciate my sweepy weepy joke.
No, Ball was very upset with us. So now we're gonna make fun of him even more. Did you say Ball did not appreciate your sleepy weepy joke?
And Siri just responded, yes.
All right, I'm starting to worry now.
Wow, that confirms everything I've ever suspected about everything ever.
You know what? Maybe Ahab was right.
Oh my god.
Baal, Moloch. Give me hey Moloch.
Are you asking your phone to be a demon?
Give me more deity names.
Okay, good God. All right.
Hey Goetia. Give me another one.
Okay, where were we? We were at
one
Ball.
More.
Ball is sleepy, eepy, weepy.
Hey Dagon.
And so we're live.
Okay.
And it's just Wendigood over here trying to summon a demon, basically.
Ball is sleepy, eepy, weepy right now, and so in
Balaam.
Yes, and in an effort to make him wake up, his own prophets decide that they're just going to start mutilating their own bodies.
Yeah, so after the sleepy, could you hear, everyone could hear my sleepy, eepy, weepy jokes, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, all right, that's all that matters. So then after that, it's that we could honestly have just ended the show after that. That was going to be my peak tonight, I think.
I think we're all a little exhausted.
So after that, he says, after he tells them, like, maybe you should try yelling a little louder. Answereth. That was verse 30. I scrolled around and lost my place. 38, right? No. This day that thou art God. Where did I read that verse at? Did I make it up? For? No, it's 27. I was trying to find the sleepy EP verse. I found it. It's 27. So then after that, they get mad based on Elijah's mockery. So in verse 28 it says, and they cried aloud and cut themselves after their manner with knives and lancets till the blood gushed out upon them. So now they're like, maybe Baal wants blood. So they start to pour that out. And it came to pass when midday was past, and they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, so there was neither voice nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. Elijah said unto all the people, come near unto me. All the people came near unto him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord that was broken down. So not only have they built up on a new altar, but the altar of God has been destroyed
again.
Yeah, sorry.
Your voice went slight robotic as though it was robotic.
I was like, oh God, not again.
No, am I becoming a transformer?
We're all good. Yeah, Autobots roll. Anyway, yeah, they prophecy until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then until dinner, and nothing has happened. Ball must be on vacation. He's not home.
You could say that he's balling.
Oh, it's pretty good. That's pretty good, actually. He's out balling. I like that.
It's okay. This is a day of the Bronze Age. You know, they
I could probably
convince
some like mentally ill grifters on Twitter that the phrase "ballin" means to worship Baal.
Oh yeah.
I could
absolutely.
That's pretty good. Someone get on that.
See, it's horribly inaccurate. If anything, it would be probably either Isis or Dionysus or something along those lines for a party god. It's not going to be Baal.
We could 100%.
Oh, what did that? Well, hold on. Explain to me then why all of the Baal sacrifice stuff is always like, oh, we have big dances and orgies and we like throw gold at it and stuff like that. That sounds like a party.
Kind of a freak off. Baal was Diddy before Diddy.
Yeah,
Baal was Diddy. So he got the ball rolling.
Sounds like a party.
You could definitely convince some schizo posters that Mr. Ballin is, in fact, Baal. It would not be difficult.
I could convince people that you're talking about the YouTuber, Mr. Ballin.
Yeah.
Well, I have absolutely no problems with him. I mean, he's been nothing but kind to me. So sure, I'm willing to implicate him as a ancient demon of the Old Testament.
Yeah, he's been great, you know?
Yeah, I'll call him a demon. Sure. I'm not doing anything.
It's crazy.
So they build up the altar, and it says Elijah took 12 stones, one for each of the 12 tribes, and with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he made a trench about the altar as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. He put the wood in order and cut the bullock in pieces and laid him on the wood and said, fill 4 barrels with water and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood.
I love
And
that he's adding. He's like, not only
he's
will
making it more difficult.
not only will my God respond, but I'm gonna make this thing wet.
Yeah, he has them do it a total of 3 times. So they go and get these giant barrels and pour it all over the sacrifice and the wood. So now everything is drenched. It says, and the water ran around the altar, and he filled the trench also with water.
I also love that the text of the Bible in fact reads, and this is 1834, and he said, "Do it the second time," and they did it the second time, and he said, "Do it the third time," and they did it the third time.
Yep,
like it's enumerated.
Pretty laid out.
You know those scenes in like clubs where it's like just rappers and others that are taking, bottles of champagne and they're dumping out? Like that's ballin', but this is a different type of ballin', if you will.
Yeah.
Just water over an altar.
Sure.
Many different types of ballin'.
Yep, I agree. They are in fact balling out in more ways than one. I would agree.
You're here to crash out. This is a ball out.
At least 3 separate times they have balled
We're balling out.
It's okay. The priests are about to be balling in another way.
Yeah.
They're about to get balled
right.
for sure.
All right, I'm
about
done.
to get.
I'm done.
You're done?
The Dayquil at this point is getting to me.
The
They're about to
Dayquil
get-
is getting to him. Oh, good Lord.
They're about to get speedballed, as some would say.
Yes.
And it came to pass at the time of offering of the evening sacrifice that Elijah the prophet came near and said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known that this day thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Lord, hear me. This people may now know that thou art the Lord God, that thou hast turned their heart back again. So, Baal, 8 hours of cutting, throwing yourself on the altar, chanting, shouting, nothing. Elijah covers his offering with water and then simply walks up to it and says, God, may you let the people know that I'm your servant and that you are the true God. And then says, with that, then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice and the wood and the stones and the dust and licked up the water that was in the trench. So the fire that came from heaven was so powerful, it ate up the water and the stones and the dust, whatever that looks like.
A geyser.
A geyser, yeah.
Okay.
There you go. It's a spirit.
I insist it's a geyser every time.
It's a geyser.
What the prophets of Baal didn't know is that Elijah had discovered diesel, and that's what actually important.
It's just naft from another like 800 years later that the Arabs would get for developing their own kind of napalm hand grenades.
I have an air horn button that I've been hitting when you guys make jokes like that, and I'm not sure if it's actually audible to the audience, but I hope it is.
Is it to drown us out or to support our humor?
To support you.
Uh-huh.
To support your comedy.
Sure. So after that, it says, when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and said, the Lord, he is the God. The Lord, he is the God. And Elijah said unto them, take the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape. And they took them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon and slew them there. So all 450 of them, Elijah lines them up and just by the brook, one by one, slew every one of them.
Can you imagine at that point just how one would actually feel in that scenario? Like they've already been bleeding themselves out in preparation for this. It's like the equivalent of the variants of leeching, where your body gets gradually weaker and weaker and weaker. And I can only imagine that someone is so broken physically and mentally at that point that you have had everything turned against you and you don't even have the blood in your body to be able to resist.
You've just made the story so much darker.
Yeah, they're just weakened. Also they have now learned that their God is the wrong God.
Yeah, that's the worst part of it. Is it's like, oh, okay, well, not only is this extraordinarily embarrassing and I am about to die, but I've also very definitively just had it shown to me that I am the worst kind of sinner.
Yep.
Like I will not see heaven.
Now you're going to be executed next to a river, so have fun with that.
And how quickly the people turn on him.
Do what?
And how quickly the people turn on them, because Elijah couldn't parade them down there himself.
He can convince anyone to go out with him. And then this entire mob of people is like, yeah, we'll execute 450 people. Like, oh, well, wow.
That's a turn.
That's a turn. That's a turn
Elijah's
for sure.
like, this, I just wanted you guys to spank them.
Not just random people either. The king's prophets. Right? Like they're not just executing like thieves or something like that. It's like people who otherwise are like highly revered in the land.
If you execute people in that manner, would that constitute a level of human sacrifice?
No, because you're not sacrificing it to anything. It's flesh for the dirt, not flesh for the god, right?
Fair enough.
Flesh for the flesh god, flesh for the flesh throne?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Blood for the blood god, blood for the blood throne.
It all works out in the end. It's all Warhammer in the end.
It's all red. It's all red and warm.
It's like Iowa, it's all corn.
Okay. So
hitting the air horn again.
I'm sorry. I had to.
I'm using the air horn liberally.
So it's funny on mine because I can't hear it at all, but I think it's some traffic because anytime you press the air horn button, it sounds like just static. Gets a little louder, like
that.
Yeah. Yes, it sounds like there's someone like 3 calls away who dropped their phone.
I'm trying to see if it's working.
Everyone says they can hear it. It's just faint. Should turn it up to 100 just to put the fear in them.
It is.
It's working all right.
It's working.
You confirmed. Confirmed the air horn works.
Hold up, do it again. I want to hear it.
It might not come through on the call side, but it's coming through.
I think you should keep spamming it
on the stream side. It is. He went through a whole thing to listen to it just to confirm that it does.
I cannot believe I just found out about that. I'm going to be using that so much.
Oh my god!
Not right now, just like on our own show.
Oh, I just heard it.
Okay, yeah. See, it's
real.
It's perfect.
All right. Oh, that case.
This is the see. Not only Ball is eepy weepy at the moment. We are also all eepy weepy.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm wide awake. I'm ready to go. So after that, he kills all the prophets. Then he goes back to the king, and this is one of my favorite Elijah moments in the Bible. In verse 41, it says, "And Elijah said unto Ahab, Get thee up, eat and drink, for there is a sound of abundance of rain." So it's like, oh my word. So it's been a drought for 3 years. 3 years ago, Elijah walked up to Ahab and said, "It won't rain until I say it does." And now he has proven his God to be real. He's executed all of the king's prophets. And then he goes to the king and says, "Get thee up, eat and drink, for I hear the rain coming. Get out of here. Don't let the rain stop you." Oh, it's so cool. Then sure enough, it says right after, "So Ahab went up to eat and drink, and Elijah went up to the top of Carmel, cast himself down upon the earth, and put his face between his knees, and said to his servant, Go up now, look toward the sea. And he went up and looked and said, There's nothing. He said, Go again 7 times. It came to pass at the 7th time that he said, Behold, there riseth a little cloud out of the sea, like a man's hand. And he said, Go up, say unto Ahab, Prepare thy chariot, and get thee down, that the rain stop thee not." Mm-hmm. That's so hard.
Just absolutely grittied on this man.
Tell the king to get out and don't let the rain stop him. Like,
it's beautiful.
So, it goes crazy.
And then Ahab runs back and complains to his wife.
Yeah, immediately. It says, "And Ahab rode and went to Jezreel, and the hand of the Lord was on Elijah, and he girded up his loins and ran before Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel."
Also, that Elijah's just like, "Now watch this," and outruns a chariot.
Oh, yeah, that's when this happens.
Yeah, it's just, I'm fast as boy.
Yeah. Yeah, Ahab goes to Jezebel. And then Jezebel's like, "I'm going to kill him." And then it's at this time that Elijah outruns a chariot. It seems that at every point, God has so much... Like, there's plenty of miracles that are performed throughout the Bible, but it seems that Elijah is so important that he's like... continuously miracles happen to him again and again and again. And I guess it's because he was in such a dangerous time historically. Like, Moses was provided for, but he also wasn't facing down a spear as often as Elijah was, right?
Or a javelin as frequently as David.
Exactly.
Well, also by that logic, Moses had effectively an entire army of people behind him. By this logic
that's true.
Expressed here, Elijah is literally alone.
Correct. Yes. So
we need an
Elijah's
movie.
case, he needs more miracles. He needs more things to go right. It's like God applies them as needed, and Elijah just needed more. That being said, Elijah is one of the most faithful people in the Bible. Not to say he was perfect by any means. It's not what I mean by this next point. But we never get a moment in his story of Elijah doubting. As a matter of fact, in the part that comes right afterwards, where Elijah kind of runs from God, and goes up into the mountain in chapter 19. It says he went into the wilderness and came and sat under a juniper tree. And it says that
you're leaving out the part where Jezebel did in fact send him a letter being like, I'm going to kill you.
Okay. Yeah. So Jezebel, the queen, sends him a letter that says, so let the gods do to me and more also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time.
Which is a really roundabout way of saying,
I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
I am going to kill you. Yeah. So the queen now wants him dead. And it says, but he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a juniper tree. And he requested for himself that he might die and said, it is enough. Now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. Mm-hmm. So Elijah goes to this point and he wants to die.
Yep.
Which depression is, it comes up a few points in the Bible.
Depression.
But it's not something we see that often, right? But this is one of the examples of someone like wishing themselves to be dead, right? This, and funny enough, Jonah and the gourd.
This
like
is sponsored by BetterHelp.
Thank you, Aiden.
It's not.
No, go ahead. Do that to us.
Sorry.
Put the fake psychiatrist.
Get us canceled, not by anything else we've said, but by doing that.
By BetterHelp. By BetterHelp, yeah.
Yeah, but he looked and behold, there was a cake.
Yeah, so like there's a sweet picture here where Elijah's under the tree and he asks for God to kill him. He says, I'm not better than my fathers. Like, think about everything Elijah has to own up to. Like, he knows of Moses, he knows of the prophets that came before him, and now he feels like a failure because yes, he's done incredible things, but then the queen wants him dead and things are still the same. The wicked king and queen still rule the land. And Elijah feels like he's powerful to stop it. And he says, I'm no better than my fathers, God. Why don't you just take my life? And then there's such a sweet, I don't know, it's maybe I'm reading too much into it, but every time I read this, there's such a sweet comfort there. In verse 6, when it says, and he looked and behold, there was a cake baking on the coals and a cruse of water at his head. And he did eat and drink and laid him down again. It's like, you know, Elijah's going through a lot of things that I'm sure none of us would go through. I have no idea how many of his fellow prophets he's seen slain.
Probably a lot.
Probably a lot, going historically. And
Ahab
for 3 years,
as one of the most evil kings in the book.
Oh yeah, he's killed a lot of people, and I'm sure Elijah knew a lot of them. And he thought that he would be the one to bring Elijah and Jezebel out of it or to overthrow them, but he did the big miracle. He did the challenge, and Jezebel still wants him dead.
Yep.
Like, you know, the king and queen haven't changed, so he's at this point of depression. And there's such a comfort to God just making him food, just like making him a cake, making him the cruse of water.
As I tell my wife very often, just eat a snack and take a nap, please.
Yes, eat a snack and take a nap. Exactly. It's like God saying that there.
Yep.
And verse 7,
you when you're hungry. I'm sorry.
It hurts so much more when there's two of you. Step over it.
I did use the air horn after you said it hurts so much more when there's two of you.
Okay.
I thought you should know.
All right. I'm going to keep reading. So after that says, and the angel of the Lord came again the second time and touched him and said, arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee.
Don't use the air horn when he said touch him.
I did not use the air horn yet.
That's why I'm telling you to not do it.
I'm not. Let the man speak.
I can see the judgment on his face.
If it makes you feel any better, he's been doing this to me all week.
Touching you?
No. So Elijah eats the cake. He's so disappointed right now. I see why they call you Dad.
So Elijah eats the cake. And then after that, the Bible says, and he arose and ate and drank and went in strength of the meat 40 days and 40 nights unto Horeb, the mount of God. And he came thither unto, which also Horeb, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's also Mount Sinai, right?
Wait, what specifically?
Horeb.
I believe Horeb is another name for Mount Sinai.
It might be. I'm going to look it up because I want to check on that one. Okay, you're beatboxing. Okay. Yes, it is Horeb. It is Mount Sinai.
So that is the same mountain where Elijah went to where Moses went to receive the 10 Commandments. So we see here that God's not only about to restore Elijah in his faith, but he's doing it through physical symbols. Elijah says he's not as good as his fathers, and God takes Elijah to the mountain where he gave the people the law, where he made the 10 Commandments. He is taking Elijah through his history to say that he is a part of it. Which is also beautiful considering, as we know, Elijah is seen as one of the most highly venerated people in Scripture. When Jesus goes through the transfiguration on the Mount, he brings Elijah and Moses, right?
Right.
And it's like, sure, maybe Elijah would have still done what he was told had he not seen all this, but we see here God reinforcing Elijah's faith. So he brings him to Mount Sinai. It says, and he came thither unto a cave and lodged there, and behold, the word of the Lord came to him. And he said unto him, what doest thou here, Elijah? Now, this is what I love about Elijah, and why I say, like, not to say he's perfect, but Elijah is one of the only people we never are explicitly described about them faltering. Because Elijah is downtrodden and he's upset, which is an emotion. And as talked about before, Elijah's a leader. Being a leader and letting your emotions get the best of you can be a real problem. But when he explains why he's upset, it's for a totally different reason. In verse 10, he says, I've been very jealous of the Lord God of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword, and I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. So we have Elijah, who, as we know, one of the most famous figures in the Bible, but at the time he doesn't feel like he can do it. He's heartbroken that his people have given up on God, and he's also heartbroken that he hasn't brought them back yet. Despite everything he's tried, the people haven't turned yet to God, and he feels like a failure. So we have emotions here that are from the right place. Sure, they're sad. Sure, they have him in a bad place, but it is the legitimacy of them that I think makes a difference. The reason this situation isn't looked upon as bad, he needs exhorting because he feels like he could be doing more, and he's sad for the sake of his people.
Well, there's no chastisement against an outside power at that point. It's self-reflection. That's that's the key part.
Yes, I agree. It's not like looking at something God has done or looking at a situation and being upset or angry. It's depression with yourself.
He feels as though he is failed.
He feels as though he is failed. Exactly.
Which is, it's not just like, you gotta understand from the perspective of a prophet, his failure is not just a failure to get these guys on the right track and worship the proper God. It's their salvation is on the line.
You know,
as far as aware. So he's doing his best to save these people, and instead of understanding, no matter what happens, no matter how many demonstrations he gives them, they routinely reject what is best for them, and he doesn't know what else to do, and he thinks maybe somebody else will be better, or maybe the time of our people has come to pass.
Yeah, and he's like, maybe I should just die. Maybe someone else should take my place.
Do you know what would probably resolve it? 450 more dead prophets.
That would probably fix his mood. That'd probably fix his mood. You're right. Why didn't I think of that?
Listen, they can't pass down any false teachings if there's no one to pass it down.
You're right about that. You're right.
Yeah, you know, the problem was that Ahab kept winning wars.
Just kill everyone. Just kill everyone who might kill everyone who's met a prophet before. Kill everyone who might know what a prophet is by definition, by textbook. Kill.
Yeah, it's the problem is that Ahab keeps succeeding at things. Like Judah couldn't beat him if they wanted to.
Yeah.
He's just too powerful.
Well, eventually.
He's
not that powerful, but yeah, right now he's pretty powerful. Yeah. So after this, Elijah says that he doesn't feel like he can do it, so God lifts him up. It says in verse 11, and he said, go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. Now that to me is one of the most perfectly like beautiful passages in scripture.
Yeah.
Because we have Elijah who is so downtrodden at the legacy he has to live up to. He thinks about Moses parting the sea and leading his people across it. He's thinking about Joshua walking around the walls of Jericho. He thinks about this impossible legacy that he's trying to live up to. And so God takes him to Mount Sinai, again, where God gave the law to man, one of the sites of the most powerful miracles in the Bible. And he gets up there and God shows him that, yes, I am capable of this power. A wind comes that shatters the rocks of the mountain, and fire and an earthquake, but God wasn't in any of those. Instead, God spoke to him in a still small voice. It is like the exact confirmation Elijah needed, that I am God. I am capable of these great, huge, and heavy things, but that's not what I need you for right now. I need you to be the voice. I need you to turn the minds of the people. And if you keep reading the book, that's exactly what Elijah does. But it's like here in these 2 verses, God encapsulated his entire life plan for Elijah in a second. I'm not in the earthquake. I'm not in the fire. I'm in the voice. And that's what I need you to be. Because it says in verse 13, and it was so when Elijah heard it that he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood in the entering in of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him and said, what doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous of the Lord God of hosts, because the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only am left. They seek my life to take it away. And the Lord said unto him, go, return on thy way to the wilderness of Damascus. When thou comest, anoint Hazael to be king over Syria. Jehu the son of Nimshi shall be anointed to be king over Israel, and Elisha the son of Shaphath at Abel Maholah, however you pronounce that, shall thou anoint to be prophet in thy room.
Yeah, I don't know how the hell you would pronounce that at all.
I would imagine Abel and then Maholah. Abel Maholah.
I would think so, yeah.
Shall thou anoint to be prophet in thy room, and it shall come to pass that him that escapeth the sword of Hazael shall Jehu slay, and him that escapeth from the sword of Jehu shall Elisha slay. And I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which hath not kissed him.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting too that Elijah is given authority to appoint a king over Syria.
Yes. Yeah.
Not this. So clearly there is some degree to which Yahweh's authority is being respected outside of Israel and Judah, which is an interesting historical point, but continue.
Yeah, it's interesting too if you look at this timeline for like kingdoms that we know of outside of the Bible where they were around times like this and stuff. Further goes back to the point I talked about last time we did a stream about, like, it seems that even though the children of Israel are certainly the ones who pick up the moniker of the tradition, that God is accepting to people outside of Israel, outside of Abraham's lineage. But what we have here is that, you know, Elijah's told that God will speak to you in the still small voice. I don't always need you to be brimstone and fire. Sometimes I just need you to speak. And then after Elijah understands this, God lays out the plan for him. He's like, go to Syria and anoint a king there. I'm going to give you a prophet to work with you, Elisha. Go and find him. And then he says, he gives several prophecies that will be carried out later. Jehu shall be anointed king. And it says, him that escaped the sword of Hazael, Jehu will slay, and who escapes the sword of Jehu, Elisha will slay, which is a direct prophecy that we see fulfilled later in Scripture. So we have God saying, look, I'm going to, like, yes, you are my prophet. Yes, you're here to do a job, but I still care about you. I still want you to understand what's happening and understand how your name will be great, because I'm using that message to speak to you now. You're going to anoint a king. You're going to have a follower to come after you. And these are the prophecies that you are going to set into motion. Just like with Elisha being depressed and God making the cake for him, it's like God is securing the faith of Elijah, even though Elijah's faith in God never wavered, but his faith in himself did waver. And it's like God is securing his self-confidence for his own sake. That's another, a lot of people talk about, like, the New Testament, be like, oh, Jesus was so much more personable. Jesus was so much more loving than the God we see in the Old Testament and stuff like that. But not really, because if you look at the way that that Yahweh speaks to his people, like he does to Elijah here, it's the same thing. It's the same, like, affirmations, the same love. The same Jesus that stood on the seashore and told Peter 3 times, do you love me? Then keep my sheep. just to restore the same man that denied him 3 times. That is the same God who is here teaching Elijah that sometimes the still small voice means more than the earthquake and the fire. It's just such a beautiful picture, like in the middle of this Old Testament narrative.
It's God as a father.
Yes, it's God as a father. Exactly.
Providing the stern hand where it's needed and the gentle hand where it's also required.
Yeah, which Jesus was known to have a stern hand too on occasion, but the very less required than the gentle one most of the time.
It's every time somebody tries to bring up Christianity as like you're not allowed to get angry if you're a Christian, I point to Jesus and the woes of the Pharisees and the chasing the moneylenders out, and I'm like, you got to remember that this guy was in fact righteous fury when required. It wasn't all peace and love and
now granted I would entrust the creator of the universe to understand when fury should be rightfully applied more than I would myself.
Oh, for sure.
So even maybe when needed, I'm still very cautious about it. Nevertheless, the fact that it is a tool in the toolbox means that it is a tool in the toolbox.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And so, I mean, after this part, I think the rest in here it's a lot of history, but the really interesting part, I think, is the end of Elijah's story. And also the fact that Elisha's request, I think, is interesting. So if we want to kind of that takes us into 2 Kings
2. Yes, 2 Kings 2, I believe, right?
Yes. The beginning of Elisha's ministry, and we have the translation of Elijah. So it's 2 Kings 2. And it came to pass, when the Lord would take up Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind, that Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. And Elijah said unto Elisha, Tarry here, I pray thee, for the Lord hath sent me to Bethel. And Elisha said to him, As the Lord liveth and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. So basically Elijah's like, okay, I'm going off to die now. Please remain in place. And Elisha's like, no. No, I'm coming.
Yeah, I'm not
letting you die alone.
I've been by your side this long. I'm not going to stop now. Yeah. Which also, we've like skipped a significant amount of time. There was a significant amount of time of Elijah and Elisha ministering together.
Yes.
The two of them were like brothers through this. And Elisha tells Elijah, I'm not leaving you.
Yeah. Which is, again, just Elijah is one of the characters in the Bible I think gets the most direct love.
Yeah.
From the people close to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, he seems to have such a pure heart. He has such a love. But this is, I was wrong, in 2 Kings chapter, oh no, it is chapter 2, I'm just dumb. Yeah. And then he says, I will not leave you. It says, and the two went, and 50 men of the sons of the prophets went and stood to view afar off, and they too stood by Jordan. So it says, and Elijah took his mantle, so they're about to cross the Jordan, and wrapped it together and smote the waters, and they were divided hither and thither, so that they too went over on dry ground. This is another beautiful picture, because if you'll remember earlier, I said Elijah felt overwhelmed by the legacy of the prophets he feels he has to live up to. And look, here in his final moments, God allows him in front of witnesses to part the sea, to part the Jordan, just as Moses had before him. So the two step over, they walk on dry ground. This is the funny part. This is Elijah's sass at its best. In verse 9, when it says, and it came to pass, when they were gone over, that Elijah said unto Elisha, ask what I shall do for thee, before I be taken away from thee. So Elijah is like, you've come a long way with me. What can I do for you, Elisha? It says, and Elisha said, I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon me. Now that shows Elijah has his head where it should be, right? I mean, he could have asked, it's similar to Solomon, when Solomon asked God to be the wisest man who ever lived. And God said, because you didn't ask for riches or for fame, I'll give you those things as well. Because you were smart in your asking. And here Elisha doesn't ask for riches or, to fame or anything like that. He asks that a double part of the spirit that Elijah has will come onto Elisha himself. So how does Elijah respond? He says, thou hast asked a hard thing.
Oh, Bud.
It's like, oh, that's I was thinking you'd
double
want like a
what I got.
I
don't know if
okay,
you're
that's
ready
a lot.
for doing what I got.
Like, I was gonna give you $5.
Yeah, double what I got. That was a hard thing. Then it continues. It says, "Nevertheless, if thou see me when I am taken from thee, it shall be so unto thee. But if not, it shall not be so." So he's saying, like, if God allows you to see what happens next, it'll happen.
Yep.
And sure enough, it says, "And it came to pass as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven."
And it was
Elijah,
not a geyser.
And it was not a geyser.
Not
a geyser. And I believe Elijah is one of the two people in the Bible who never died. Him and Enoch.
Even Jesus
God
died.
just took him to heaven. Even Jesus died. Yeah.
This is some special treatment.
Mm-hmm. And straight up to heaven. It says, and Elisha saw it, which means that his ass came true. He has a double portion of the Spirit. And he cried, my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. And he saw him no more. And he took hold of his own clothes and rent them in two pieces. He took up also the mantle of Elijah that fell from him and went back and stood by the Jordan. And then sure enough, as he walks over there, all of the prophets see Elisha now walking with the coat of Elijah. Mm-hmm. And Elisha performs the exact same miracle they just saw Elijah did, which talk about like a symbol. They see Elijah and Elisha leave, and Elijah's coat parts the water. And then just Elisha comes back. And now Elisha, using Elijah's coat, parts the water as well. It's like physically the mantle of God being passed from one to the other.
That is also where the term taking up the mantle comes from.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, it's literally like inheriting something is from this story. Yeah, and I mean, it's... I do not... This is one of the parts of the Bible. Kings is one of the parts I have not read nearly enough, and I need to get back through it again because I haven't done it in years.
Ironically enough, as a guy who attended Catholic school for so many years as a kid, Book of Kings is specifically what I read over and over again.
That does not surprise me.
Mostly because I loved all the wars.
Oh yeah, that tracks.
The wars are cool. The wars
there are a lot of
cool.
wars.
It's a big thing as a kid that I liked.
So many wars.
A lot of them.
A lot of wars and Chronicles too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when you were at Mass, and you weren't obviously allowed to take other stuff, you had to be, if you were going to read anything while in Mass, it was going to be the Bible. It was just literally me reading the Book of Kings.
We during my religious studies courses, we read a lot of the prophets. So it wasn't as much Kings and Judges. It was a lot more of like the first five, the Pentateuch, and then it was the books of the major prophets. And the rest was kind of like, if we had a major in the program, then you probably would have read everything else. But that's not what we had. They took it from us. You couldn't major in religious studies at Penn State. You could major in a lot of things. That was not one of them. And I was disappointed because we had some amazing professors. Good minor, though. Very good minor. All right. So, with all of that covered, I think we can dedicate a little bit of time to taking questions. It's going to be interesting because I don't have my monitor. What were you going to say?
I can go through up to the top and read them.
Yes.
There were donations in the previous stream, but
yeah, there were. So that's the thing is, I'm gonna give you 1 second here.
Here, I'll start reading off some of the ones we have right now.
This whole thing that happened just completely broke this multiple times.
Yeah,
it's gone forever. Sorry, idiots.
I can get to the stream. I just need to give.
No, they're gone forever. They're lost to time. I think. I'll let you do it then. Go ahead.
God, there were like multiple of these. Okay, going back to the first one. If I can, where's the? I gotta get to the. That's the problem. Is it's yet to find like the right thing. Ah, crap! It's only gonna let me view the. It's only gonna let me view this one. Damn, that sucks. I'll be able to go back and grab the rest later. So maybe what I'll do for those of you who submitted super chats prior to this section of the stream starting. I'll take some time next week and I'll do a live stream. I'll go through and answer some of these on my own. Obviously, Isaiah won't be there, but that way at least you get your money's worth, or at least half your money's worth. But yeah, so we have starting off here, and I'm gonna let the more topical ones take precedence. But this is a good one.
Line. That's a good
Jim
line.
with a hand grenade said, "And on the third stream, the Wi-Fi rose again."
That's a good line. That's a really good line.
Which is a solid one. And then we have somebody said, Interesting. For the story I'm writing, what are your thoughts and views on Lucifer and Satan being the same entity, yet they have their own thoughts, bodies, and consciousness? What do you think, Isaiah?
I guess, sure.
You could theoretically do that as any kind of part of a story that someone is writing. You could.
You know that clip of Cliff Kennedal arguing with that guy online, and he's like, the Bible doesn't say anything about 6 kings of hell.
Yeah.
And then the other guy's like, yeah, well, the Bible doesn't say they're not there, does it?
It's like, that's not really how this works.
Yeah, and he's like, what? That's how I feel about that message.
I think the way to consider that is the Bible doesn't really.
Oh! I'm so sorry. I didn't hear the first part where he said for the story I'm writing.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say is, if you look at it, Lucifer is a term that is not present in every translation of the Bible. It is a translation of morning star, son of the dawn. This is kind of the term that gets translated as Lucifer. So Satan as a term, there is the Satan, and then there is the use of the term Satan as it applies to the meaning of adversary. So if you're looking at one figure with 2 aspects, I think you could do it, but I think the way to do it would be to kind of you're going to hate me, Isaiah. I'm so sorry, but the way you might want to do it is have like a Gollum situation where there's
I literally said schizophrenic. Just make him
where
schizophrenic.
there's 2 brains in one person that are arguing with each other, and one could be that angel pre-fall and that angel post-fall. So if you wanted to have them have separate consciousnesses, I think that would be the way to look at it, is that the fall kind of split this individual into 2 that reside within the same body but have separate consciousnesses, if that makes sense. It came back around. I think that's fair. Let's see. Oh God. Aragorn. I have no idea how I'm supposed to pronounce that, but nothing was deleted. The stream just got yoinked like 3 times. It's not great. Ballin', but at what cost? This is Birch Bongos. Ballin', but at what cost? Ballin', and I can't get up.
There's so many puns. I'm sorry that I've now done this here for the comments, I'm sure.
God. Okay. Yes, Dorito Bandito said, have you seen the painting of Jesus crossing over the devil in basketball? Yes. Gus, I will get to them probably next week. I will do a special stream. I'll make sure that it's properly advertised and everything. It's just, with the way that this has gone tonight, it's been kind of impossible. Let's see. I'm looking for other big direct questions here. This one would be an interesting one for you. It's not necessarily biblical, but I'm curious about your thoughts, Isaiah. So he said, would you guys play a Souls-like game based on Christian lore?
Can you imagine
Dark Souls, but with Christianity as like
there'd be a lot of qualifiers. Wait, isn't that basically the premise of the Dante's Inferno
That's
game?
literally what I was saying.
I think so.
Dante's Inferno, except if Dante's Inferno was combined with Ninja Gaiden. If you've ever played that.
I have not played Ninja. I don't even know what Ninja... It's just for the record, I have never played a Souls-like game, and I don't think I ever will.
Like, for anyone who's in the chat, like, for anyone who recognizes what I'm talking about, it's one of those things that would actually probably apply.
I think if you could get an accurate video game for the Bible, it would be a great way of teaching people about it. It would just be really difficult to make one that isn't widely perceived as heresy.
Everything is ineffective except a faith build. Like, blades don't work, only faith builds do. That's it.
That'd be funny. It's just like whenever you throw away all your weapons and like surrender, that's when you win.
Yeah. Just some sort of divine intervention happens.
Yep.
Let's see. What? Did the computer freeze?
Did your computer now freeze here? The touchpad is dead?
Oh my god. No, the whole computer's frozen.
What?
What is happening?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay. Our computer has just now... oh, wait. No, it's back.
It froze and then it came back.
Oh my god.
What is
we
happening
had
tonight?
a fourth one right there.
What is happening tonight?
Wow.
All right. So this one's a good one. Taped Worm, not Tapeworm, says, I want your guys' level of faith. I try, but I still have existential dread and feel like there will be nothing once we die. Anyway, love the work, guys. So I guess I don't. It's not much of a question, but I think it's worth responding to. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I would say I never have existential dread. I mean, I think it's a human emotion to be worried about the future and about what happens when you die and what if I was wrong. I don't think that that's really something that you can't have while remaining a Christian. Like, you're allowed to be concerned, you're allowed to feel fear, because uncertainty is part of it. I mean, one of the big things about Christianity is that, you're encouraged to ask questions. You're encouraged to interrogate the text to an extent and really bring yourself to closer understanding, because in some ways it follows along with the Greek philosophical schools in that the best way to understand something is to question it. And I think that Christianity is much the same. If you want to, I think that if you ask a room full of people who claim to be Christian if they've ever questioned their faith, and most of them don't raise their hands, you're probably not in a room full of thoughtful Christians. What do you think, Isaiah?
Yeah, with the caveat that I think everyone should at some point in their life examine the faith, like understand why they believe it and stuff like that.
Well, you could also even make an argument based off historical perspectives that the whole reason for the rise of modern Christianity, post-dogmatic things that would occur within the Catholic Church, is specifically because of the justification of faith through philosophy that would occur because of Descartes and others.
Yeah.
Where there was almost like a science that was applied to it. That was where a lot of those developments really started to take place.
Yeah, Aquinas is a... Read Aquinas.
I think it is it's reasonable to question things, but I don't know. I feel like it takes a lot more faith to believe that our world existing, life existing, atomic structure existing, emotions, love, fear, all that, purpose, fate. I feel like it takes so much more faith to imagine that was a spontaneous reaction of chemicals and atoms with no purpose that perfectly interacts excellently with itself every day in order to make the universe happen the way it does. I think that takes a lot more faith than maybe someone designed it.
I agree with you on that. I don't. The number of accidents that are required.
Yeah. I mean, like, just the fact that our atoms are composed in such a way that they all blend together and carbon links with carbon to create cells, and then trillions of those replicate themselves and to create us. But we're also things that feel and love and loss and purpose and desire and art. And I think to say that we're an accident is ridiculous. I think it's much easier to swallow that maybe we're here for a reason. And then as far as like, well, how do you know Christianity is within that reason? As soon as you can find me a dude that historically had as many people documenting him before and after his public execution, whose teachings are excellent and never contradict themselves, and the book was composed across 2,000 years by over 40 different authors, and every one of them spoke of the exact same thing and never contradicted each other in such a way that it feels like the whole book was written by one person against languages and cultures and millennia. That also makes as much sense to history, morals, ethics, everything like that. As soon as you find me one that does better than the Bible, I'll listen. Until then,
I think that's a great point for it too, because it's one of the few religions that dates back this far where you can sit there as a historian definitively say, this guy, there's no reason not to believe this guy existed. Meanwhile, if you're looking at Mithras, if you're looking at Muhammad, if you're looking at basically any of the pagan gods, you can't sit there and say, yeah, there's evidence that this guy was real. It's all just it's all just construction based off of stories. And it's like, we have archaeological evidence that follows along with things that are said about Jesus and about the places Jesus went and the things he did. So that's at the very least, you cannot argue Jesus wasn't a real person. And that lends a huge amount of credibility to the story.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
All right.
I agree.
Let's see. YouTube is not... Huh? Weird. Okay, hang on. All right. I just want to make sure that everything is actually still working because the bit rate is being stupid. Okay. So Christian Nieces did say, as I said on one of the previous versions of the stream, the term assumption means to be brought up by God, but ascension is rising on your own. All right, good. In the King James, it's referred to as translation, which I think is interesting. Let's see. Dear Cop said, hey, so I just want to say thank you for everything. Because of you guys, I was able to go to church, and now I'm part of my town's community. So thank you. Thank you for reaching out and trying to become part of the community. That's beautiful. Oh, this is an interesting one. Isaiah, because I think this has to do a lot with what you cover on your channel. Kiki Isla said, do we grieve the Holy Spirit by deliberately exposing ourselves to gruesome horror, be it fiction or not?
No, that is between you and God, unironically. I have a piece about the things I cover and the things I'm interested in. That I don't glorify the elements that are... I don't put anything on a pedestal as being excellent. Now, when it comes to fiction and stuff like that, a lot of the stuff I'm interested in is pretty brutal and violent, and
you don't say.
I don't think those should be the only thing you put into your mind.
I don't think we've ever thought of you in any way different.
You've only got a horror video game poster behind you.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's a fake announcement.
I loved watching you react to Vita Carnis, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
That was a fun one.
Yeah, Vita Carnis is fun. I like that series. But basically, come to your own conclusions about it. That's your own spiritual walk. If you cannot get peace when you watch a certain thing, don't watch that thing. It's not worth the spirit.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's, at the end of the day, it's about your spiritual fortitude. If you feel like, because I know some people who have told me they feel spiritually strange or wrong when watching horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
And that it makes them think about demons and things like that. And if that's your case, then that's probably a good sign that you are not constructed in a way that is something that's good for you. And maybe if you want to enjoy those things, the thing you need to do is go to church and work on it so that you can not have those thoughts while watching a horror movie. For me, I can watch basically anything and just be like, okay, cool, this is entertaining, but it doesn't do anything to me mentally or spiritually. I'm just having a good time watching.
Or you could just play Doom and kill demons.
That's true.
That right there is probably salvation.
Also,
like that.
Speaking of games that involve demons, Sons of the Forest, surprisingly Christian. Have you played it?
Sons of the Forest, I've not.
Yeah, that would be you'd like that one. It's a survival horror game, but there are these things called demons in the second game, which is Sons of the Forest. And one of the ways that you can keep them at bay is you find a cross just during the exploration, and if you hold up the cross, it sets them on fire.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that. It's pretty swag.
Someone for Comment Mama said, I don't know why they said Colin, because my name's not Colin, but they said, Colin, please, please, please. My dad's name is Colin. Renounce the Blue Lodge and all Masonic ties. Jesus says, swear no oaths. Please, Lord, deliver all those under demonic influence of Masonry. I would request that you go watch our video on Freemasonry on the Lore Lodge.
No, I think he's right. I think you should do those things.
I know you probably do. But no, I respect it. I appreciate it. I do not have the same opinion regarding Freemasonry or what is meant by take no oaths, because baptism is an oath. Marriage is an oath. There are all sorts of oaths. The oath the don't take oaths part is more about, hey, do not swear things that you can't deliver. Do not swear things unto things that are not God. And the Masonic oath that you take is an oath to God. It is not an oath to anything else. So I appreciate where it's coming from. I've been investigating it myself for a long time. I in fact, have been questioning some things about Freemasonry for a time. But that is a specific faith journey that I and many other Christians are currently on. And if I find that Freemasonry has aspects that drive me away from faith, then I will be leaving it. And so if I stop being a Freemason, you'll know why. I took an oath not to betray any secrets, but if I leave, it's probably because something funky happened. Let's see. What else we got here? Is there anything else directly related to what we've discussed this evening? Huh? Okay. All right. Somebody, okay, so Argor said, Wendy and Aiden are some of the only side B folks I really respect, so I was hoping to get Aiden's well-studied thoughts from his Methodist background. Not sure which question you were specifically going with here. It must be from the previous stream, so I'll go back and I'll answer that one myself. When I have a minute next week. Terminology defined for those asking. Side A equals affirming in some form or fashion. Side B equals unaffirming in every regard. So I don't know what the question was, but we'll definitely get to that next week. Other than that, I think... Kayla Kelly said, I've been listening and watching while working night shifts, and these little lessons have strengthened my faith. Thank you guys so much, and God bless. Well, thank you. I'm glad that we're able to help in some way. Miss Maury said, it says a lot for us in mental health issues. We've gotten the message of that if you doubt yourself, you're doubting God, but here we see it's not. Yeah, I think that's a really good way of understanding it, is that you're allowed to doubt yourself. Don't doubt God, but you are allowed to have questions about your own fortitude. Just about everybody did. I mean, Moses did. Elijah did. I mean, I'm trying to think of some of the other big figures who have a moment of crisis. Saul, obviously. David has a few moments. Solomon has a few moments. Most of the main big characters in the Bible have a moment where they doubt God.
I mean, by that logic, even Jesus would have it.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah, the Message translation of David and Goliath. I'll do that one right at the very end. We got one from Roberto Rodriguez. This is an interesting one. I'm curious about your thoughts on this one, Isaiah. Why did God center the events of the Bible in the Middle East and not anywhere else? Or are there signs in other places?
Because people didn't exist anywhere else.
I think that's... I kind of agree with that. You know, that's where civilization was.
Yeah.
That's where the earliest civilizations were in the Middle East.
Come New Testament there were, but we see that in the Bible with like people traveling to Ethiopia and Rome and stuff like that. But yeah.
I think early on the Hebrews are a specific people and they're in the Middle East.
Uh-huh.
The Bible is written from their perspective. So there could be signs of God elsewhere in the world. God could have been interacting elsewhere in the world. In fact, we see that he's active in Syria. Yahweh is recognized in Syria. Syria is not really a central portion of the Bible. Really, wherever the Jews are is where things are centered. So, again, just because it's not in the Bible doesn't mean it didn't happen. But also, just because it's not in the Bible doesn't mean it did happen.
Yeah.
I think is the best way to look at it. And as to that last thing, because I believe that was the last one, there were some other messages, but I will reply to those next week. How bad is this going to be? Oh, no.
What do you mean, oh, no? What's going on?
Okay, so here's the thing. Yeah, so is this up in the right spot? Is it? Okay, yeah, so the people can see it. Isaiah, you ready for David and Goliath in the Message translation?
Go ahead.
A giant nearly 10 feet tall stepped out from the Philistine line into the open, Goliath from Gath. He had a bronze helmet on his head and was dressed in armor, 126 pounds of it. He wore bronze shin guards and carried a bronze sword. His spear was like a fence rail. The spear tip alone weighed over 15 pounds. His shield bearer walked ahead of him. Goliath stood there and called out to the Israelite troops, "Why bother using your whole army? Am I not Philistine enough for you? And you're all committed to Saul, aren't you? So pick your best fighter and pit him against me. If he gets the upper hand and kills me, the Philistines will all become your slaves. But if I get the upper hand and kill him, you'll all become our slaves and serve us. I challenge the troops of Israel this day. Give me a man. Let us fight it out together." Enter David. He was the son of Jesse the Ephrathite from Bethlehem. Enter David. Jesse, the father of 8 sons, was himself too old to join Saul's army. Jesse's 3 oldest sons had followed Saul to war. The names of the 3 sons who had joined up with Saul were Eliab, the firstborn, next Abinadab, and third Shammah. David was the youngest son. While his 3 oldest brothers were sent to war with Saul, David went back and forth from attending to Saul to tending his father's sheep in Bethlehem. Each morning and evening for 40 days, Goliath took his stand and made his speech. One day, Jesse told David his son, "Take this sack of cracked wheat and these 10 loaves of bread and run them down to your brothers in the camp. And take these 10 wedges of cheese to the captain of their division. Check in on your brothers to see if they are getting along all right, and let me know how they're doing. Saul and your brothers and all the Israelites in their war with the Philistines in Oak Valley." This is so bad.
What?
Yeah. Oh, boy. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to when the actual fight happens. Oh, yeah. This is when David gets down there. Oh, wait, no. David, who was talking to the men standing around him, asked, "What's in it for the man who kills that Philistine and gets rid of this ugly blot on Israel's honor? Who does he think he is anyway? This uncircumcised Philistine taunting the armies of God alive." This is horrible.
Is this just like a modernized translation?
Yeah, Eliab, his older brother, heard David fraternizing with the men and lost his temper. "What are you doing here? Why aren't you minding your own business tending that scrawny flock of sheep? I know what you're up to. You've come down here to see the sights, hoping for a ringside seat at a bloody battle." Ready for this? "What is it with you?" replied David. "All I did was ask a question."
What? Okay, I'm sorry. This sounds like dialogue off of a fan fiction.
Yeah, all right. So the things David were saying were picked up and reported to Saul. Saul sent for him. "Master," said David, "don't give up hope. I'm ready to go and fight this Philistine." It sounds like it's from Star Wars, the prequel series.
It also sounds like a very young shonen manga. Like, "Don't worry, guys. Don't give up. We can fight him."
David told Saul, "I can't move with all this stuff on me. I'm not used to this." And he took it all off. This is so bad. All right, here we go. The Philistine ridiculed David. "Am I a dog that you come after me with a stick?" And he cursed him by his gods. "Come on," said the Philistine. "I'll make roadkill of you for the buzzards." Roadkill. "I'll turn you into a tasty morsel for the field mice."
You could have said a corpse for the vultures.
And that is basically what is said. I don't know why roadkill. Yeah, roadkill. That makes sense.
Roadkill.
David answered, "You come at me with sword and spear and battle axe. I come at you in the name of God of the angel armies, the God of Israel's troops, who you curse and mock. This very day God is handing you over to me. I'm about to kill you, cut off your head, and serve up your body and the bodies of your Philistine buddies to the crows and coyotes. The whole earth will know there is an extraordinary God in Israel. And everyone gathered here will learn that God doesn't save by the means of sword or spear. The battle belongs to God. He's handing it to us on a platter." It is an anime.
It literally is.
This is an anime. Okay, that roused the Philistine and he started toward David. David took off from the front line, running towards the Philistine. David reached into his pocket for a stone, slung it, and hit the Philistine hard in the forehead, embedding the stone deeply. The Philistine crashed face down in the dirt. That's how David beat the Philistine, with a sling and stone. He hit him and killed him. No sword for David. Oh, except there was a sword.
Because afterwards he cuts off his head.
Because afterward he runs up and cuts off his head with a sword. This is... When Saul saw David go out to meet the Philistine, he said to Abner, commander of the army, "Tell me about this young man's family." Abner said, "For the life of me, O king, I don't know." Brother. Oh, Isaiah's asleep.
I'm not asleep. I'm just suffering. I'm just in pain.
Yeah, that was tough.
I was waiting for it to be over.
Yeah, that was rough. Never make me read that again.
Oh.
Never make me read that again.
Wow.
Okay. Woo. All right. Thank you guys. This actually really quickly, this one. This is a shout out to all of our brothers and sisters in Christ, currently facing persecution and death in the Middle East right now. May our prayers and blessings reach them. Yeah, Syria appointing a member of Al Qaeda to be president probably wasn't the best move. That's not going well for our people. Could be better. Well, Isaiah seems like he's about to pass away from pure grief.
I'm just more so that one took whatever energy I had left.
That's fair. All right.
Just hearing that was I feel like a rag. I feel like a bottle of soup.
A bottle of soup.
I feel like
a bottle of soup.
I feel like a milkshake.
It's not just a bottle of soup. It's one of those Deer Park bottles that have already been used for like 3 other things, and now you've poured remnants of soup into, the heat of which has caused the bottle to warp into an ugly shape.
I don't want to think about that.
I feel like college kids who take like a pack of ramen noodles and they poke holes in the side of it to use as a bong. I feel like the pack of ramen noodles right now.
Okay, well, I guess we'll let you suffer in peace.
Sorry for scarring you worse.
Isaiah's having a rough one. All right, well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to make sure he's okay, and then we're going to go not do content for the first time all day. So, thank you, everyone, for watching. We will see you next time. This is Stephen Bell of Stakui and History of Everything and History Unhinged. Thornbury had to finish editing tonight, so we will see you guys all on the next one. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you all for watching. Don't read the message to me ever again. Thank you. Bye.
Oh my God. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry everything was a complete mess tonight.
Oh, no, you're good, man. I know how it goes.
I'm sorry I had to lean on you a little bit more on this one. This is not my forte.
No problem at all, man. Happy to. Had a good time.
Doing things in the first place, I didn't know what to necessarily say or do.
You did fine
in here.
You did fine. All right. Well, I guess I'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk to you boys later. Very nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
All right. Bye.
See y'all later. Bye.